Okay. Can everyone see me? Yes, right? Okay. Well, welcome to Sports Backers MTT Nutrition Clinic. I am so excited you're here. If you were here with me last year, amazing. This should be a good refresher and some new things that you're learning today. And if you've never attended one of our nutrition clinics, I'm so glad you're here to learn how to fuel better and support your body through training and on race day. So I'll start by introducing myself. My name is Emily. I'm a runner just like you. I've run several marathons and half marathons and 10Ks and trail races, and I've been running now for, I think, 11 or 12 years. Um, I'm a registered dietitian. I am a run and strength coach. So I help people with nutrition and running plans and strength coaching plans, strength training plans. And I'm founder of The Dietitian Runner. So my website is The Dietitian Runner. My Instagram handle is The Dietitian Runner. So you can find me over there. So let's dive in because we have a lot to cover. So I'm so glad you're here because marathon training is a lot of stress on the body. And nutrition is so important because you have such high nutrition demands. And especially when you're going that distance, your recovery needs are high. So, why your nutrition matters is for your energy, so you can perform well, you can feel good during running, but also outside of running, because I know that running is a part of your life, but it's not your whole life. And it can help you get to that start line healthy and not have any injuries, cross my fingers. But if you look over here, this is a person's average calorie needs. This is someone who's a marathoner and their calorie needs are significantly higher. So you want to do everything in your power to make sure that you're eating enough. And well, I'll help you with that today. And you want to do your best to not underfuel because as you see over here, I listed so many complications of underfueling, nutrient deficiencies, cravings and overeating at night. So if you feel like your mileage has increased and after work you like raid the cupboards and you can't stop eating, it could be a sign that you're not fueling correctly during the day. Poor energy, if you're constantly getting ill or injured. Muscle bone loss is a complication of underfueling, not performing how you want, not progressing how you want in your training, hitting the wall during long runs and races. And a big one is having an irregular or completely losing your period in female athletes. So, your nutrition is very important, and I'm here to help you with that today. So here is like your roadmap to marathon nutrition. Number one is your mindset. We need to get in the right fueling mindset so that when we talk about all these nutrition strategies that we'll talk about today, it will be easy to apply them and we won't get so many roadblocks with our mindset that prevent us from actually fueling our body well. Your daily nutrition outside of running, how are you're feeding your body on a daily basis, and then your running and racing nutrition. So we're going to chat about all three areas of your nutrition today, and we're going to start off with mindset. So you might be wondering, okay, you're a dietitian. Why are we talking about mindset here? And mindset is such an important piece of nutrition because our beliefs, our views, how we think about food and our body and body image and our relationship with exercise really determines how we go about fueling and nourishing our body. We don't want to fall into restriction and we want to stay away from the dieting mindset. If we think about it, nutrition really focuses on like, I can't have this, I can't have this, take this away, this is on the bad foods list or whatever. I can't eat that. And that's not helpful to anyone, whether you're a runner or not. It's not a helpful mindset and it can cause a lot of issues, disordered eating, eating disorders, and it's definitely going to affect health and performance. And one thing that it can really trap you in is this thing called the restrict binge cycle. And it goes like this. Like think of a cycle, right? Think of a circle. And at the top of the circle is, let's say you, and this is something that I've heard a lot. I can't have, like, I'm going to be really good this week and I'm not going to have any cookies, right? So you restrict the cookies. And then like a few days go by and you're like, oh, I'm doing really good. But then after a few days, you start craving the cookies. And then you really crave the cookies. And then by the time you eat a cookie, you can't just have one or two. You end up eating a whole box of cookies and then you feel horrible. Your mentally you feel really guilty. Your stomach probably aches. And then you vow to yourself, okay, I'm not going to eat cookies and I'm going to start over new tomorrow. And then you kind of go back and back around the cycle. Replace that with whatever food you want. But we want to avoid that completely. And instead of being trapped in that way of thinking, we want to have an optimization mindset, which really focuses on what nutrients am I missing and what can I add to my meals to make them more complete, to make them more nutrient dense. And really, it's all about finding balance with your eating. I'm a big ice cream lover, and I focus on, as a runner myself, I focus on nutrient dense foods, but I am going to have my ice cream when I want my ice cream, and that is my fun food. So we want to find that balance. We can get into problems when we're really, really strict with ourselves and our eating. Something that I want you to take away from this is what I have in capital letters. You are an athlete, and it's time to start fueling like one. If you don't believe that you're an athlete, I want you to start a daily positive affirmation and tell yourself every single day, I am an athlete. I am an athlete until you start believing it. Because once you view yourself as the athlete that you are, it's easier to start fueling like one. Now, marathon training is 100%, 1,000% not the time to focus on weight loss because in order to lose weight, you need to be in a calorie deficit. To be in a calorie deficit during marathon training when your body's energy and nutrition demands are so high is really dangerous. And you're at risk for something called low energy availability. That is basically a fancy word for your body isn't getting the calories it needs to support everything that it needs to do. Yes, to exercise, but also to recover from that exercise, to adapt to that exercise, to produce hormones, to keep your bones strong and healthy. So it's a lack of energy, it's a lack of calories. And if goes on for a longer period of time, it can progress to something called REDS, which is relative energy deficiency in sport. And if you look here, you can see that, yes, there are some performance declines that occur because of REDS, but there are tons of health consequences that follow, like impaired metabolism, impaired GI function, impaired bone health, which isn't great if you're a runner and it could potentially set you up for an injury. Sometimes we don't know that an athlete it has REDS until they're, show up with a fracture or whatever. So all this to say, focus on optimization, focus on fueling your body the best that you can, and don't focus on weight loss at this time. Focus on optimizing your nutrition in the best way possible. So, second to mindset is your daily nutrition. That's your nutrition foundation. That is the foundation for your energy, your health, your performance. And there is a lot of, I guess, categories that fall under your daily nutrition. Your daily calorie intake, your macronutrient intake, your micronutrient intake, which is vitamins and minerals, hydration and electrolytes, meal planning, shopping, prepping to make sure that you actually have the foods available to you to then build a balanced plate and help you meet your needs on a daily basis. Which many people look at that and they think, oh my gosh, I don't have half of a day to plan my meals and shop my meals and prep all the things. And it can mean that, but you can do that in a very quick, easy way. Or you can think about having pantry, fridge, freezer staples or essentials in your house so that you have the ingredients, the quick, easy, healthy ingredients to pull together to make that meal when you need to make it quickly, when you don't have a lot of time to cook, etc. And then I would also say that nutrition supplements also fall under this category as well. Each athlete, though, has their own unique needs. Everyone's calorie needs aren't the same. They can vary from athlete to athlete. Same with macronutrient, micronutrient needs, hydration and electrolyte. Everyone is different. So don't compare your plate and how you're fueling to especially your non-marathon training friends. and family, but also even to your marathon training friends and family if you have any that marathon train, because everyone's needs are so different. So you really want to be in tune with what your body's needs are and then learn how to fuel to meet those needs. Now, something to help with daily nutrition is this framework called Runner's Plate. And I want to take you through this because it's a non-number way to build a balanced plate that will better align with your exercise. So when you're in the beginning of marathon training and when you're really ramping up, you're doing double digit runs, maybe you even get to peak week, right? Well, I hope you get to peak week, but when you get to peak week, your needs are going to vary. You should not be eating the same way that you did in the beginning of a training cycle. And if you are eating the same way, you're probably missing the mark a whole bunch with different um, nutrition needs, and I would assume that you're under fueling. If you are interested in, again, everyone has different nutrient needs, different calorie needs, macronutrient needs. Working with a sports dietitian, a registered dietitian can help you understand what your specific needs are. But again, this is a framework that I'm going to take you through right now to help you visually build that plate and understand how that plate changes when our exercise increases and exercise decreases. So let's look at this easy training plate here. You'll see that across all three plates, there are four different categories or four different parts. There's your grains and starches, which is your carb-rich foods, your protein, your fats, and color, which is fruits and veggies. So all of those parts remain consistent along the plates. It's just the portions that change. So nobody here should be following the easy training plate. That is when we fill our plate with half fruits and vegetables. We have a source of fat. So in this case, avocado, walnuts, and we have fat in our salmon. A quarter of it is protein and a quarter of it is grains and starches. This plate, your plate should not look like this plate. And if it does, you got some work to do because this is going to totally cause underfueling because it's not enough carbohydrates for the activity that you're doing. So when you're taking time off of exercise, when you're not in a training cycle, let's say you're not training for a race, you're not in a training cycle, maybe you're doing like 20 to 30 minutes of easy effort running or cycling or swimming or whatever. This plate is appropriate for that type of exercise, but I know that you're doing way more. So if we take a step up from the easy training plate to the moderate training plate, what we're doing here is we have all of the same parts, but we're increasing the grain and starch section to give you more carbohydrate because you're doing more exercise. So you'll use the moderate training plate when you're training for a race and when you're doing about 30 to 60 minutes of easy effort exercise a day. In this case, we're choosing like a much bigger potato. We can cut back on color a little bit because we want to make room for the extra grains and starches. Sometimes for some people, like eating half a color or half a plate of color plus a third plate of grains and starches and everything that you see here, it's just too much food volume and they can't, it's just too much food. So we can cut back a little bit there. But really, our fat is similar and our protein stays about the same. Now, when we step up again to the hard training plate, we level up to the hard training plate. What we're doing here is we're increasing your exercise to about 60 minutes a day of easy effort exercise, or you're incorporating some speed work. So maybe you're doing a 45-minute run, but you have some speed work within that run. Like you have your run warm up, your run cool down, but maybe you're doing some hard intervals in between that. The hard training plate would better align with that because the more exercise you do, the more miles you run, the more time you spend exercising, the higher your daily carbohydrate needs are. And this plate is going to give you some more carbohydrates. So instead of filling our plate with a third grains and starches, now our plate is really half grains and starches, half of those carb-rich foods. So we have the bigger potato, but now we're adding rice. We're cutting back on color a little bit just to make some extra room for those extra grains and starches. Again, we're adding healthy fats. Protein stays to about a quarter of the plate, and that's going to help us better fuel that exercise. Now, you may find that you might use a mixture of the moderate training plate and the hard training plate. Like you might find during the week, maybe exercise falls within that 30 to 60 minutes a day. Maybe that moderate training plate is what works for you during the week. But let's say you do your long run on Saturday, as you gear up for your long run on Saturday, that Friday, you're eating the hard training plate for breakfast, lunch, and dinner to prep you for your long run the next day. And then Saturday morning, you eat before you run, which I'll give you some more guidance on today. You'll go out for your long run. And afterwards, you want to eat that hard training plate for the rest of the day because that's going to help you recover. So you'll get these slides and you can refer back to this plate and start to get familiar with it. Start to visualize that plate as you build out your meals. So as your mileage increases throughout your training cycle, your daily calorie needs will increase, your daily carbohydrate needs will increase, and your daily fluid and electrolyte needs will increase. So those three things are the things that increase the most with your nutrition. So for daily calorie needs, you might find that you are eating more at meals. You're eating more frequently. So maybe you are adding some more snacks in between meals. I know when I'm marathon training, I have at least 2 snacks, one in the morning, one in the afternoon, and sometimes even one at night before I go to bed. Because I have high calorie needs and I know that I need those snacks to help me reach my needs so I can feel good and perform well and stay healthy. Now, the runner's plate is going to help you increase your daily carbohydrate needs and also making snacks more carb rich, which we'll talk more about snacks in just a sec, can be helpful too in meeting your higher carbohydrate needs as your exercise increases. And then I'll give you some guidelines soon about hydration too. Again, if you're eating the same way now that you did in the beginning of your training cycle, you're probably under fueling. If you're not increasing your fluids and electrolytes, could be dehydrated, could not be getting the electrolytes that your body needs to do its thing and perform well. So make sure that throughout your training cycle, you're understand how your needs change and you're making those changes accordingly. Now, here's a little bit more about snacks. This is a framework for runner snacks outside of running. So I'm not talking about pre-workout nutrition right now. I'm talking about snacks in between meals during your day. You want to aim for protein. So in this case, here is some Greek yogurt. You want to aim for grains and starches. That is going to be your carbohydrates. And then color, which again is fruits and vegetables, antioxidant-rich foods, fiber-rich foods, micronutrient rich, so really awesome for you to have at snacks. Snacks get such a bad rap, but snacks aren't bad. Snacks are helpful because as you are learning, your nutrition needs are high as a runner who is marathon training. Having snacks in between meals can help you meet your increased needs the more miles you run. So why we want carbs at snacks or grains and starches? So this is cereal, if you didn't know, they're bran flakes. Carbs provide energy. Carbs help us recover after exercise. Carbs support our brain. So our brain uses carbs for energy. And again, when we increase our miles, we want to make snacks more carb rich. So we want to basically add more carbs and focus on carbs more at snacks. Protein is important to have at snacks too. And again, this is some Greek yogurt here. Protein helps with muscle repair and recovery. Plus, protein and fiber can help with blood sugar control too. So if you're an athlete worried about blood sugar control or had some blood sugar issues, having protein and fiber at meals and snacks along with your carbs can be super helpful. And then again, color, micronutrients, antioxidants, fiber to keep you fuller longer. So think about this framework and all of this you should be thinking about when you're planning out your meals and snacks for the week. So take these slides out, and when you are planning for next week's meals, think, okay, I know I need protein, grains and starches, and color at snacks. Let me think of this snack that will give me all three. So start thinking about this when you're planning. So again, you actually plan balanced meals and snacks to better meet your needs. Now, we're going to do like a little deep dive on macronutrients. Carb, fat, protein are essential for all human beings. I don't care whether you are training or a runner or you exercise or not. A human needs carbs, fat, and protein. They all play different roles in our health, and we need all three. As a marathoner, you especially need all three. So let's do a little deep dive into the macronutrients. So, first up is carbs. Carbs is our main energy source. Again, they're essential for recovery. They actually support our muscle mass and can help us not lose as much muscle. So they support our muscle mass. It boosts brain power. So, fun fact, your brain uses at least 130 grams of carbs a day to function. It can help you decrease your injury risk and remain healthy. And here are some carbohydrate rich foods that I listed. So, like your starchy veggies, think of corn, peas, potatoes, legumes, black beans, chickpeas, kidney beans, lentils, fruit, dairy, and grains. Now, the carbs I listed here, these are referred to as complex carbs because they're high in fiber. I often see this, and this drives me nuts. I often see people talk about carbs and labeling carbs as good carbs and bad carbs, which I hate that because they both have a place in runner's nutrition. And there are times that you'll learn today, and you'll see, actually, I put some examples below, that I would recommend you focus more on the simple refined carbs, the ones that everyone labels as bad, instead of the complex carbs. And I don't want you to feel bad for choosing them. If we label things as bad, we often feel bad and call ourselves bad for eating these foods. And you don't want to, that's a slippery slope. You don't want to go there. So, at meals and snacks, those high fiber complex carbs that you see here listed out, at meals and snacks away from exercise, focus on those. But if we're eating within the hour of exercise, so let's say we wake up, we eat something because you want to eat something before all workouts. You don't want to do workouts fasted, it's not helpful. So if you wake up and eat something, eat a snack, you're not going to want to eat a high fiber snack. Not going to feel good. So choosing simple carbs, and I have more examples later on, choosing simple carbs is the way to go there, especially when you don't have a lot of time to digest. During our exercise, we want to focus on simple carbs or sugar. Sugar is not a bad word. It's okay in runner's nutrition. You'll learn when to focus on that during running. And then during a carb load too. So again, we'll talk a little bit more about simple carbs and carbs during exercise in just a bit. Let me move me out of the way. Okay, so here are sports nutrition guidelines for endurance athletes. You'll see over here on the left is your daily carb requirements in grams of carbs per kilogram of body weight per day. On the right-hand side, you'll see exercise. You'll notice that as you go down the column here, what we're doing is we're increasing the duration and or intensity of exercise. As you increase the intensity, and here's your takeaway, as you increase the intensity and the duration of exercise, so when you're exercising longer, look what happens. Your daily carb needs increase. So if you're a numbers person, here are some numbers. I know these are big ranges. If you're not a numbers person, don't freak out. You have my runner's plates, my runner snack framework, and some guidance there. So I will say that many athletes that I work with one-on-one, they are falling short of their carbohydrate needs. I'll say that out of all of the macronutrients, that carbohydrate needs are typically the ones that runners aren't getting enough of. And when they start to eat carbohydrates and they start to better meet their carbohydrate needs, it's amazing the transformation that I see in how they feel and how they recover and how they perform. So carbs are really, really important. Hopefully you know this by now. Carbs are really, really important for endurance athletes, and you're a marathon runner, so you're an endurance athlete. Now, protein is also important too. We want protein on our plate, right? At a runner's plate, so we want protein at our snack because protein helps with muscle repair and recovery. It supports lean body mass as we age. So, like a natural part of aging is we tend to lose lean body mass, just how it goes. But making sure getting enough protein can help us hold on to our muscle mass and not lose muscle mass as quickly. Protein is also used to make hormones and enzymes. Now, protein is something that I see all over Instagram, all over social media. Lots of people, influencers are talking about protein, and it is important. But as runners, we must not forget that carbs are important too, and they play a little bit different of a role. So they're both important. Here are some protein rich foods here. I did a note here. We can get some protein from like peanut butter and nuts and seeds, but I don't necessarily consider those a high protein food. So just a little, like they can help a little bit with getting us some protein. But if you look at like the nutrition label of peanut butter, it's much higher in fat. So I consider that like a healthy fat. And then aiming for a variety of protein rich foods is important. And I think when it comes to all the macronutrients, I think when it comes to all the different types of foods, getting a variety is important. So that way we're not eating the same things. And if what we're eating is lacking some nutrients, we're not chronically low in our nutrient intake. So variety is key. And how much should endurance athletes aim for? It's 1.4 to 2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day. I know that's a giant range, but lots of things influence protein needs, just like our daily calorie needs. So that's a sports guideline for endurance athletes, general sports guideline. Last but not least is healthy fats. So fats also provide some energy. And I love, of course, having healthy fats at meals and snacks because a huge benefit is it helps your body absorb fat soluble vitamins. And you'll see them listed: vitamin A, D, E, and K. So that fat at your meal and snack can help your body absorb those fat soluble vitamins at your meals and snacks. So an extra perk there. Satiety, hormone health, managing inflammation. So healthy fats are like fatty fish. So think of like your tuna and your salmon, olive oil, avocado oil, avocados, nuts and seeds. Those are healthy fats. Omega 3s are something that is really important, especially for endurance athletes. Omega 3s are essential fats. They're called essential fats because we can't make them. Like our body can't make omega 3s, so they're essential to eat. And omega 3s, there's lots of awesome research on omega 3s. They can help manage inflammation, they can improve exercise recovery and reduce DOMS, which is delayed onset muscle soreness. For those of you who don't know what that is, it's, let's say Monday you started a new strength plan, because hopefully everyone here is strength training. You started a new strength plan. Monday you did that workout, and then you like feel pretty good throughout the rest of the day. Tuesday you're like, I'm a little sore, but I'm feeling pretty good. And then Wednesday it like hits you, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm sore, and it hurts to walk down the stairs. So that's an example of DOMS. I would recommend to get those omega 3s in to aim for 2 servings of fatty fish per week. Some athletes, depending on the situation, could benefit from a third party tested supplement. But supplements are highly individualized, and I like to focus on food first, but there is a time and place for them. So, as far as how much fat that you need a day, it's 20 to 35% of your total daily calories. All right. And then micronutrients, too, fancy word for vitamins and minerals, health, hydration, immune function, energy, performance, etc. So they play a vital role too. We can't forget about our vitamins and minerals. Lots of times we're like so focused on calories. We're so focused on macronutrients, but we can't forget about the little micronutrients too. Runners, especially endurance athletes, you're an endurance athlete, you're marathon training, you may be at risk for certain micronutrient deficiencies because you have higher needs. So doing a lot of miles and that endurance exercise can increase your needs. Again, on food first. Like, let's focus on food first. We get so many awesome nutrition benefits from food versus like a supplement. But again, supplements have a time and place. So when we focus on food first, how you can make sure to get a wide variety of micronutrients is eat a wide variety of food, eat a wide variety of colorful food. So when it comes to like your fruits and veggies, don't just eat like bananas, oranges, and apples every single week all month long. Vary it up. Get some like berries in there. Try some eggplant. Sometimes it's fun just to like go to the store, and this is how I learned about all these different like exotic fruits that I've had. Like you go to the store and you just buy something and try it. Sometimes I'll watch like a YouTube video. I'm like, okay, how do you eat this? And can you eat the skin? Or like, how do you cut this? And what seeds can you eat and can't you eat? And blah, blah, blah. So try something new and switch it up. So, when it comes to needing a supplement, get your blood work done first. Consult with a sports dietitian like myself before you supplement. Don't supplement blindly. There are, and I worked with this runner a few years ago now. She thought she was having symptoms of iron deficiency. And so she started a supplement, but she didn't know her level. So she started a supplement, and it was a high dose supplement. So she was supplementing for like weeks. And then she came to me for some help because of low energy. And she finally got blood work done, thank goodness. And she ended up her iron levels were insanely high. So she didn't really need that supplement. And now we're facing a new problem and we're stuck with high iron. And iron, if we take too much iron, especially in supplement form, we can't just pee it out like we can vitamin C. Like if we take Emergen-C, if we take another vitamin C supplement, water soluble, we like pee it out. But iron isn't easy to get rid of that way, and we can run into issues. So all this to say, supplements have a time and place. Focus on foods first. I would recommend blood work at least once a year. If you run multiple marathons, twice a year. If you are working through like a deficiency, again, I hope you're working with someone, but maybe every few months, depending on what you're dealing with. Okay, enough of that. On to hydration. So, hydration is something that is so important. And a lot of times we think of like, okay, I need to drink water, right? You'll learn today that runner's hydration is so much more than just water. It's actually electrolytes too. Excuse me. But look at all the benefits of adequate hydration. Protects your joints and tissues, supports digestion and metabolism, body temperature regulation, transporting nutrients, oxygen, and waste throughout the body. It supports your muscles. So, fun fact, your muscles are 75% water. So, they need to be adequately hydrated to function and work properly. And it can support your performance because when we're running, as little as 2% dehydration can start to cause some performance decline. So, I've seen with runners through sweat testing, I've seen runners 6, 7%. I think last year it was so hot and humid, and she was marathon training. That's a lot of, I should say, that's pretty dehydrated that she's getting. And then we need to work on, optimizing hydration because that definitely can affect performance. Not only during race day, but during your training. So, here is why you want to stay hydrated. Now, to figure out your daily hydration needs, this is baseline. This isn't accounting for any sweat loss. Take your weight in pounds, cut it in half, and that's how many ounces to aim for a day. So I have an example here. 160-pound runner wants to aim for 80 ounces a day. Again, that's baseline. We need to add more to that to properly hydrate around your workouts and to replenish post-workout. If you're like, I don't know how much I weigh, just estimate. It's not that big of a deal. If the scale is especially triggering to you, don't hop on the scale. It's not that. Just estimate your weight. Know that all fluids count. So, like, yeah, water counts, but like, are you drinking iced tea? Are you drinking seltzer? That type of thing. So, all those fluids count towards your daily hydration goal. Sip all throughout the day. Like, when you make your coffee in the morning, if you drink coffee or if you drink tea in the morning, have your coffee and then like sip water as it brews. Start early throughout the day, avoid chugging because there's only so much your body can absorb at once. So just keep that in mind. We'll talk about how to hydrate around workouts when we get to running nutrition, which we are on now. So the third part of nu nutrition that I want to talk about today is running and racing nutrition. So we talked about mindset, we talked about daily nutrition, and now we're on to running nutrition. So think of pre-workout, during workout, and post-workout, before, during, after. Now, nutrient timing is something that we want to put in place because this can enhance our energy, boost our performance, and help us exercise or help us recover better after exercise. So, again, nutrient timing is strategically timing our nutrients around our exercise, our nutrient intake around our exercise to help with performance and recovery. Today, I'm going to go over a lot of the sports nutrition guidelines with you, but understand that they're the general sports guidelines, and a lot of times they need to be individualized to you and your goals and your training. This piece might require a little bit of trial and error. I'll give you the guidelines. You can create a plan and trial things out. And just know that, like, sometimes we just need to go for it. And if it doesn't work, we can make adjustments and then trial it again. During your training is when you want to figure this out. You don't want to get to race week and think, oh my gosh, how am I going to fuel during this race? Am I going to be carrying my hydration and electrolytes with me? Or am I going to be taking cups on course? Like, you don't want to start thinking about it then. You want to figure out like what gels you're going to use and what breakfast you're going to have and how long you need to digest. Again, trialing all this out during training is going to make such difference. And you're going to get to race week feeling so much better because you have it all figured out. You've trialed and tested everything out, and you're just ready to repeat again on race day. It's like nutrition is something that should not be a stressor on race day. And if it is, we got to talk about it and figure out your nutrition approach a little bit better. Now, what you're eating before, during, and after, like long runs and races, is not going to make a huge difference if your daily nutrition has a lot of holes, gaps in it, and you're really not doing a good job with fueling your body outside of running. Daily nutrition is your first priority. Then we put these pieces into place and we can get much more benefits and better results that way. So, starting off with pre workout nutrition. Please fuel before all of your workouts. It's going to be the best way to support your energy, your performance. You want to get the best out of your workouts, right? Like, you want to train to the best of your ability so that you can show up on race day and perform to the best of your ability, right? So your body needs fuel to train hard and to go the miles, right? And to feel good and recover well and get the most out of your workouts. So please fuel before all workouts, cross training, strength training, running, even early morning workouts. You want to have something. So I'm going to break this up into fueling before workouts that are shorter, like less than an hour, and fueling for workouts that are longer than that, like your long runs. So you'll see down here that when you are working out for less than an hour, you want to choose low fiber carbohydrates, especially if you don't have a lot of time to digest. So I'm looking at you, morning runners who get up really early and do their run the first thing. You're not going to feel good if you have a snack that's higher in fats, protein, fiber, because those delay and slow digestion. And it's going to feel like a rock is sitting in your stomach when you go out there to run. So, like, I wouldn't choose a 20-gram protein bar. I wouldn't choose really high fiber cereal or a high fiber bar. So, those low fiber, simple, refined carbs are the perfect thing to focus on here. So, like graham crackers, dried dates, bananas. Like, I listed out a whole bunch of fuel that has that quick energy. So your body will be able to digest these quickly. And then you can use that energy during your workout. This is my latest thing. These Bobo bars are so good. This is a good example of getting those carbs in, but without so much fiber. So this is a really great pre-workout option. Now, for workouts that are over an hour, having a banana, having a few dates, having like a graham cracker rectangle, that is not going to cut it for longer efforts. So for workouts that are over an hour, you need more to sustain you through those longer efforts. A big thing here is if you're eating more, just know that you might need some more time to digest before running. A lot of times runners have GI issues during running because they still got food in their system. Like they still have food in their stomach and it's rebelling in there, like you're not giving yourself enough time to digest. So that can make a huge difference, especially if you're a runner that is struggling with GI issues right now. The goal of that breakfast or pre-run snack, whatever you want to call it, is making sure there's plenty of carbs in that meal or snack. Carbs fuel your exercise. They give you energy to perform. And you can include some protein if you have time to digest. And I always recommend to include a sports drink because that's going to help you optimize your hydration. Excuse me. Now, as far as how much carb to aim for, at bare minimum, you want to aim for 1 gram of carb per kilogram of body weight. So take your weight in pounds, divide it by 2.2, and that's how you get your weight in kilograms. Multiply that by 1, and that's how many grams of carbs you want to aim for at bare minimum. So you do the math, you see what's in your pre-run nutrition meal or snack, and you see if you got some work to do. Now, since you're marathon training, you're not just out there for an hour or 2 hours. Your runs are probably going to get up there, right? You're going to be out there for longer and longer. So during your training, before long runs and before races, I would recommend to try to further optimize closer to 1.5 to 2 grams of carbs per kilogram of body weight before those longer efforts. And you can slowly do this. You don't have to go from 0 to 100. You can go like, okay, let me have a waffle. All right, this waffle went well, so let me add another waffle next time. Okay, 2 waffles went well, then let me add the banana and let me add the sports drink or whatever. You go at it at whatever pace you need to optimize your carb intake going into your workouts. Again, like test these things out, build up during your training because that can turn into your race day breakfast. How awesome is that? You don't have to get to race week thinking, oh my gosh, what am I going to eat and how long do I need to digest? Tested it out. You know the timing and you can just repeat it on race day. One less thing to worry about. Now, I often get the comments or maybe questions of, okay, Emily, I need to start, especially now. It's been so hot. I used to live in Richmond. I moved to North Carolina 2 weeks ago, and I'm dying on these runs. It is so hot. It is so humid. So if you're one that's like, and I know you guys start your group runs early, but if you're one that's like, I cherish my sleep and like I can't get up hours before a long run and eat and then digest and then go out for my long run. It's cutting into my sleep too much. Like, I get it. I'm a runner too. I've trained for marathons. Like, I know how that feels. So don't give up on your pre workout nutrition. What you can do is have a snack, but drink drink liquids that have lots of carbs. So here's an example here 2 scoops of Skratch Lab Sport. Skratch Labs is an electrolyte powder that you can add to liquid. So 2 scoops of that, 3 rectangle graham crackers, and you're already at like 75 grams of carb. If you heard of Tailwind, again, that's an electrolyte carb product, but Tailwind has a high carb fuel product. It's newer. A pouch of that's 90 grams of carb. You add that with a toaster waffle and you're over 100 grams of carb. See how easy that adds up? And then same with like the apple juice or whatever juice you like. 2 cups of that, a banana, 87 grams of carbs. That's amazing. Like you're good to go. Now, I know I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but you don't need to be afraid of sugar. No, I don't want you eating sugar all day, every day. Like, I think a lot of people, is it misconstrue? A lot of people maybe don't understand, when dietitians are like, it's okay, you can have sugar during running. Sugar is very easily digested, and it's a quick energy source, a quick fuel source. So there is a time and place for it. We don't need to be afraid of it. When we're taking gels that have sugar in them, it's there for a reason. That's fuel. That's easy digestible fuel that supports our body and supports all the miles we're running and supports our performance. So juice, for example, like it has a time and place. Have it before a workout. It's going to be okay. Don't drink juice all day, every day. There's such thing as too much, right? But it has a time and it has a place. So you don't need to be afraid of sugar in juice or sugar in our sports nutrition products, okay? So you have a better idea of what to focus on before running, but what should you focus on during running? There are three parts to during run nutrition that I'm going to break down for you. So carbs is our fuel during running, fluids, and then electrolytes. So let's break all of that down, starting with carb. So during running, low fiber carbs and sugar is best. When we're sitting here right now, we have blood flowing to our digestive tract that's supporting our digestion, the movement of our GI tract. But when we're running, some of that blood flow is going to be shunted. And instead of going to our GI tract, some blood flow, of course, goes to your GI tract, but just less. Some of that is going to be sent to your working muscles to deliver things like oxygen and nutrients to keep your body running and to support your muscles. So because there's less blood flow to your GI tract, digestion is slowed. So low fiber carbs, sugar is best, okay? If you're looking to not have any GI issues, those are great fuel sources. You get to decide if you want to eat food or take gels. Our sports nutrition products are like gels, chews, sports beans, any sports drink that has carbs. So those are nutrition products. Or you can do a combo. I have some athletes who like to eat food like pretzels and honey packets and dates. I have some athletes who just do gels. I have some athletes who do a combo. So again, we test this out. We got to figure this out, trial different things during training and see what works for you. I've tried all the things, and I personally discovered this about myself. I hate chewing when I run. So for me, choose out. Food that I have to chew out. Give me a gel. I can suck down a gel real quick and move on. I can drink some electrolytes in my handheld or vest or whatever I'm using to carry my hydration. If it has carbs in it, that also I'd prefer that too. So that's just like a little thing to think about too. Now on race day, noon endurance is on course. Don't get noon sport and noon endurance confused. Noon sport it's fizzier. It has carb, or excuse me, it doesn't have carb. It has sodium, but it's like really low in carb. It's not a fuel source. It's more of an electrolyte source. Noon endurance, however, has sodium, but it also has carbs. So that could help you fuel a little bit. On course, it's going to be available every 2 miles until mile 20, and then every mile after that. If noon endurance is something you plan to take on course, please get noon endurance. Please trial it out during training and get used to it during training. Nothing new on race day. The gels on course are GU Energy Gel. So vanilla bean, strawberry banana, they're only at miles 14 and 21. 2 gels for a marathon is not enough. I hope you're doing way more fuel than that. So just know that if you're solely relying on gels, 2 for a marathon, totally under fueling, could high chances of hitting that wall. So just be aware of that. Like you can take those gels on course, but you better bring other fuel with you. Or you better figure out like, okay, noon endurance, there's cups on course. I need to take this amount of cups. This will give me this amount of carbs and, whatever. But even that, you're probably low. Junk food stops will be available at mile 16 and 20, but nothing new on race day. My first ever Richmond Marathon, mile 20, I almost ended up in the porta potty because I stopped at the junk food stop, the table, junk food stop. I took Halloween candy that I have never ever had during running, and I had it during running, and my stomach started growling after and was so unhappy. And I finished. Wasn't pretty, but I finished. So again, like don't take anything new race day. And then pickle juice is at mile 23. It's a good source of sodium, an electrolyte sodium, but it's not fuel. So just some tidbits there. Again, if you plan to take GU on course on race day, don't take it for the first time on race day. Buy it, have it, make sure you like it, and then you should be good to go race day. Now, how much carb do you need during running? You want to aim for 60 to 90 plus grams of carb per hour starting hour one. We start fueling early during long runs. We start fueling early during races when we don't feel we need it. Because if we're waiting until we're low in energy to then take a gel or to then take chews or whatever you're using for fuel, you're missing the mark. And it's really hard to catch up once you get behind. Know that gels count, food counts, chews count, any sports drink that has carbs in it, all of those count towards those your hourly carb goal. Again, you don't need to start from like, let's say you're at 20 grams per hour. You don't need to go from 20 to 90, okay? You can go from 20 and then maybe you add a little something else. So now you're at 30. And then maybe the next long run, you add a little something else. And you can slowly build up to your goal over time. When you're fueling above 60 grams per hour, you want to aim for a blend of carb types because your body is going to be better able to absorb it. So we have these different transporters, these different carb transporters that sit along our small intestine. And they tend to get saturated, like, for example, glucose. If we're fueling with straight up glucose and we're hitting 70, 75 grams an hour, you're oversaturating that transporter and you could potentially have some GI problems because you're putting too much in the system and your body can only absorb glucose transporter, for example, can only absorb 60 grams per hour. So instead of just choosing one carb source, you want to choose a variety. So this is our GU Vanilla Bean Energy Gel. Again, this is available on course on race day. So we see that it has 22 grams of carbs per gel. And we look at our ingredients and we see that it has maltodextrin and fructose. We have two different carb types. We have that blend. We're good to go. So look on the labels of your sports products. If you're using sports products, look on the labels of your sports drink, of your electrolyte products, of your gels, whatever you're using to fuel. Look to see what types of carbs it provides. So here is an example. Remember, our goal is 60 to 90 grams of carbs per hour. So I decided to use these products here. These are some of my favorites. So we're using GU, that's on course. This is a Crank Sport e-gel here. This is a handheld, as you can see. And then this is a packet of that Scratch Lab Sport Hydration. So if we're looking at our labels here and we're looking at the carbs in each gel, if we look at GU and then we look at Crank Sport and add those together, we're at 59 grams of carb. But we're falling short a little bit, right, of that 60 to 90 grams per hour. So again, like it's so helpful for marathon trainers to have some carbs in their fluids, to have some for marathon runners, even like triathloners, people who do triathlons, people who do ultra marathons. Like it's so helpful to have carb in your fluid because it can bump up your carb intake. Like here we're going from 59 grams, you add a packet of Scratch Labs, and you're now at 78 grams of carb per hour. So how you could break that up is you take one gel every 25 to 30 minutes during your run, starting 20 to 30 minutes into your run when you don't feel you need it yet. Again, be proactive. And then your goal will be to drink your handheld with one scoop of Scratch Labs in it per hour. So if you're relying on your own electrolyte products like this, what I did when I was with MTT is we would stop at our SAGs and then I would fill up my handheld. My goal based on my sweat rate was one handheld per hour of running with one scoop of Scratch Lab. So what I would do is I'd have my handheld and then I better finish that handheld. I'm a really heavy sweater, so I better finish that handheld each hour of running, each hour that I'm out there. So I'd stop and fill my handheld up. I would have these scratch packets on me in my vest or usually in like my shorts pockets. And then I'd refill my handheld with water, rip off scratch, add it in, and I'm good to go for the next hour. And then you want to think about too, like, how is that going to play out race day? Are we bringing a handheld? Are we bringing our own electrolytes? Are we taking from course? Think through all of that now, actually, before you get to your race, of course. And then again, like if you're at 1 gel an hour and nothing else, that's a start. Definitely room to improve. So start with 1 gel an hour. And then maybe like you do 1 gel every 45 minutes. Maybe that's where you're at. And then slowly try to bump that back. Maybe then you do 1 gel every 30 minutes, and then you're getting those 2 gels an hour in. And then maybe once you hit the 2 gels an hour, then you're adding in some carb into your handheld. So you can build up however you want. But building up and optimizing is key to running strong, forming well on race day, and during your training runs and not hitting the wall. And the second piece of during long run and during race, I should have said during long run slash race nutrition, but this applies to long run and races. So hydration is your second piece, fluids. You want to avoid dehydration but also avoid overhydration because they're both not great. So some signs of dehydration to be aware of, you'll see listed here. When you're dehydrated, it increases your body temperature. It can put you at risk for heat exhaustion and stroke, those heat related illnesses. It makes your heart work harder. You use more of your glycogen stores, which is stored energy or stored carbohydrate that we have in our muscles. So you're using that at a faster rate. We also don't want to overhydrate, especially when we're just drinking plain water, dilute fluids, because we can be at risk for something called exercise associated hyponatremia, which I'm pretty sure I don't have the blood work to prove it, but I'm pretty sure when I used to drink plain water and half marathon train as a heavy sweater, I'm pretty sure I've experienced this a few different times early on in my running journey. And it's awful. It's not fun. I felt sick for days. So just be aware, it can be deadly as well. Hope you guys can't see all these notifications that popped up. Gosh darn it. Hold on. Clear off. Okay. This drives me crazy. Okay. I don't know why the guy keeps popping up. I hope you can't see these reminders that I'm getting on my screen, but whatever. Um, so how much fluid should you aim for? Runs that are under an hour, it's not necessary to bring fluids with you and drink, but please know your body and be smart, especially if it's hot and humid. I go out there, even for 3 mile runs, I go out there, I bring electrolytes and I bring my handhelds because I'm a heavy sweater. I lose a lot of salt in my sweat, and I like to have sips on my run. It makes me feel more comfortable. So I do that. Again, these are guidelines, but they're not rules, like hard, fast rules. But when you're running over an hour, please bring fluids with you. How much fluid to aim for on long runs is really based on your individual sweat rate. So that's how many liters of fluid you lose per hour of exercise. You can know what that is through a sweat test. The general sports recommendation is to aim for 14 to 27 ounces per hour of fluid. Just like our fuel, we want to hit that goal within the first hour. We want to be proactive. We want to start sipping early, sip often throughout our run. Again, if you're at like, I don't know, 10 ounces an hour, you can work on slowly building up during your training. If you are, again, if you plan to use Nuun Endurance on race day, use that same product during your training to get yourself familiar with it. And then also start thinking through gear for carrying hydration. Like, hopefully you're thinking about this. Like, hopefully you have a vest, or you have a reusable cup that you can stop at every seg and get some electrolytes and hydration in that way, or a running belt or a handheld. I don't know if I already said that, but you want to make sure you're staying hydrated. And there's no shame. Like when I was a newbie runner, would always look around me and think like, oh my gosh, no one has like gels or anything. Like here we are doing like 10 miles and like no one is fueling. No one is even like stopping for hydration. No one is carrying the hydration. Do you? Like hopefully you learn all about how to fuel and hydrate as a runner, and you do you, and you put on blinders and you ignore what everyone else is doing. Um, and then the last piece of during long run nutrition is electrolytes. We lose 5 electrolytes in our sweat, and you'll see them listed here. We generally lose the most sodium, followed by chloride, moderate amounts of potassium, and really small, like trace amounts of calcium and magnesium. But just like our sweat, some people are heavy sweaters, some are lighter sweaters. Same with our electrolyte composition of our sweat and how much electrolytes we lose. It can vary so significantly between runners. Some runners lose a little bit of sodium through their sweat, others have a much higher concentration of sodium in their sweat and they lose more. So, sodium in particular, we want to make sure that since sodium tends to be the electrolyte we lose the most of, and because we are now aware of exercise associated hyponatremia, we want to make sure that we have sodium included in our running nutrition plan. And we do have very specific sports guidelines for sodium in particular. So we want to at least aim for 300 to 600 milligrams of sodium per hour during running. Again, we want to hit that hour one. If you're a salty sweater, which I can give you some signs of that in just a sec, but if you're a salty sweater, you might need more. Runners tend to have higher sodium needs. So there's a general recommendation, I'm sure you've seen it out there, of making sure to limit your sodium intake to less than 2,300 milligrams a day. Like many of the general nutrition recommendations for the general population who are not endurance athletes, who are not marathoners, this doesn't really apply to us. So just be very mindful of that. Like there's a lot of nutrition recommendations out there, but you're an endurance athlete. Your needs are very unique and very different to, again, the general population. So how do you know if you're a salty sweater? If you have salt crystals on your skin, like look at this guy, he has white all over his face. Sometimes I can't see the white on my skin, but I can feel it. So sometimes it like just feels gritty on my face, on my arms, my legs. If you wear a hat, especially a darker hat, if you have a white stain on the inside brim of your hat, that's salt loss. That's a sign that you're a salty sweater. If you have white staining on your clothes like this, that's a sign that you are a salty sweater. And again, like if you want to find your individual sweat rate and sweat electrolyte composition, you can use a sweat test. Now, this is called H Drop, and this is a reusable band that I wore on my arm. I still have it, and I have their newest version too. It's very helpful. But I used this when I was marathon training. I was training for the New York City Marathon. I really wanted to like dial in my electrolytes and my fluid. So this little gadget here connects to an app on my phone, and this is the results that I got from one of my runs. This is the Ashland Half Marathon. This data is not from that, but this data is from a different run. It was a 206-minute run to be exact. And here's my total fluid loss, my average sweat rate. So 36.4 ounces an hour I lost. That's like, I believe, a little over a gallon per hour. My sodium loss is a little over 5,000 milligrams, potassium loss, etc. So it's really useful data to have so you have an understanding of your sweat rate and then your sweat electrolyte loss and composition. So again, like to help with electrolytes, like you can use a sports drink. These are some of my favorites: Tailwind Endurance Fuel, Scratch Lab drink mix, Gatorade Endurance. So if you're training for, or if you're training with MTT, but maybe you're running like one of the world major marathons, Gatorade Endurance is on a lot of the courses. So that's one that I had to practice with when I was training for the New York City Marathon. You have Noon Endurance right here, which again is on course on race day. And then you have some electrolyte chews and electrolyte capsules that you swallow. And here I also listed some higher sodium gels as well. Okay, so we have post-workout nutrition to cover next. And then I want to talk a little bit about carb loading. And I didn't mention this in the beginning, but I am all yours for questions at the end. So feel free to put questions in the chat and to like come on here and chat with me and ask them at the end. So after workouts, we want to provide our body with nutrition ASAP because it supports our recovery. We can't expect our body to recover well after exercise if we're not giving it the right nutrition, if we're not being intentional with our nutrition and fueling ASAP after exercise. When we go long periods of time without eating after exercise, so waiting hours to eat after you finish a workout, you're not going to recover as well, and you can actually increase your injury risk. So eat something ASAP, please. You can start with a snack. So there's two options. Start with a snack that has some carb, some protein in it, and make sure you're drinking fluids and electrolytes. Then follow it up with a runner's plate. After a long workout, make sure it resembles that hard training plate. You can also skip the snack and go right for the meal, but try to get that meal in as soon as you can. Don't wait hours. Post-workout nutrition is something you're going to want to think about way ahead of that long run. So something that I like to do when I'm meal planning for the week is thinking, okay, this weekend I have this run. Let me make sure to get some ingredients so that I can go ahead and make sure, like, okay, I'm going to get extra smoothie ingredients because smoothie ingredients I have for breakfast, I tend to run out, on Fridays. That doesn't help me for a quick, nutritious post-recovery snack after my long run. So I'll get actually extra ingredients at the store, or I get extra eggs, or make sure I get extra bagels, or like whatever. But just make sure you plan ahead so that you actually have the food available to help you recover. So here is an example. Like you do a run, long run, you get home, you make a smoothie, you have an electrolyte drink here, you sip on both as you cool down, as you do whatever you got to do, you hop in the shower, you get ready for your day, and then you can make your breakfast. So it's an example. Or go right for your breakfast, but again, get that in ASAP. Last but not least, I want to chat through carb loading with you. And this is a little more detailed than last year. So if you were here last year with me, this is more in depth this year. So carb loading is very race specific, and it has been shown to benefit performance and boost performance when races are over 90 minutes. So for most of us, that's our half marathons, and it's our marathons and beyond. The goal here is to optimize your glycogen stores. So when we eat carb, we use that carb for energy, and we also store it in our liver and in our muscles. And when we're doing long runs, what we're doing is we're pulling from our muscle glycogen stores to use as fuel to keep us going. But our glycogen stores are limited. So they generally get depleted around 90 to 120 minutes of exercise, which when you're marathon training, you're going to be out there for a lot longer than that. When you're racing, you're going to be out there for a lot longer than that, right? I should say racing since it's very race specific. So that's why taking in other carbs and other fuel during running is important on top of carb loading. Why we want to carb load and what it has been shown to do is improve endurance performance by 2 to 3%. You might be looking at that thinking 2 to 3%, that's nothing, but it can translate into minutes off your finish time. Can postpone fatigue, help you not hit the wall during racing. So these are our sports nutrition guidelines. For marathons, I would definitely recommend to do 3 full days of carb loading. And our goal is 8 to 12 grams of carbs per kilogram of body weight per day. So take your weight in pounds, divide it by 2.2, That's your weight in kilograms. Multiply it by 8, multiply it by 12, and you have your nice range. I would say at minimum, try to reach for that 8 grams per kilogram per day. And then race morning, you wake up, you eat your race day breakfast, and you follow your race day plan. So here's an example, 170-pound runner is 77 kilograms. You multiply that by our carb loading range here, and it's 618 to 924 grams a day. If you haven't carb loaded for the first time, or have ever calculated your carb loading needs, your eyes are probably wide open and your mouth is probably open. I know I did that the first time, but know that we do it for a reason because we want to improve our performance on race day. Know that the first time can be scary, if you would call it that, overwhelming maybe. But know that the more you race, the more you do these long races, the more you carb load, it just becomes this thing that you do to get ready for your long race. So don't let it intimidate you. But here are some tips. Focus on those low fiber carbs. When you increase your carb intake, if you're eating all high fiber carbs, there's such thing as too much fiber. Probably not going to feel great. You can cause some GI issues, and you don't want to do that before race day. So low fiber carbs is best. Think like white rice, white pasta. Think of a lot of the simple refined grains here. And then carb-rich fluids are important. So this is actually how I plan my athletes' carb load here is we plan for a breakfast, lunch, dinner, 2 snacks in between. And what we do is we plan for a carb loading or a carb rich liquid at all meals, sports drinks, juice, lemonade, iced tea, that sort of thing. Because when it comes down to food volume, it can be a lot to eat 600 grams of carbs through just food alone. So if we incorporate food, but also carb rich liquids, it's easier to reach your carb loading goals, I think. I struggle with food volume when I carb load, and I drink all the carb drinks I can when I'm carb loading. Know that it's not intuitive, but neither is running a marathon. Okay. So there might be times when you just think, like, I'm not hungry for that snack. Well, I would practice some practical eating, which is you might not be hungry, but you want to carb load, you want to meet your goal and get the benefit of carb loading. So you have a snack, or maybe you swap it for a carb rich liquid instead. If you can plan the same meals and snacks through all 3 days of your carb load, it is just an easier menu to follow, and it's probably better for your budget. So you can use, like, I use an app called Nutritionix. It's nutrition and then IX at the end. What I'll do for my athletes is actually plug in, and I don't pay for it, so it should be free for everyone. But what I do is I plug in their carb load menu to see how much of these foods I need, what's the portions look like to help them reach their carb load goal. So that's like a little tip for you too. Okay, and that is it. So one thing that I want to say, make you aware of, is I'm on Instagram and I post like every single day, pretty much, about nutrition and training for runners. I also have a weekly newsletter. So in these slides here, this like is clickable. So if you're looking for more nutrition tips, more training tips, I have a newsletter that I show up in your inbox every Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So sign up for that if you're interested in learning more. And then if you want to send me an email, if you're a little shy on here and have questions but don't want to ask, feel free to send me an email. Or if you need help, feel free to send me an email. You can follow me on Instagram here at The Dietitian Runner. And then I also have a website with like a blog and different resources available to you as well. Okay, I think it's time for questions. Has anyone asked a question in the chat? No? Okay, let me hear your questions because I know you all have them.
I have a question.
Okay, hi, how are you?
Good. So
Good.
let's say, we're training now, June, July, August, and we figure out exactly what works for us in terms of carbs and electrolytes and everything. And then it gets cold, and then we're not sweating as much. And then
Mm-hmm.
does all of that change and we have to figure it out again, or We don't need as much as we did before, maybe with electrolytes, because we're not sweating as much because now the temperature has changed, or is it pretty much you just stay steady with what had been working before?
Yep, your environment, your training environment, your temperatures, the humidity, the dew point can change your sweat rate. You're right. Now, there have been years though in Richmond, and I attended, my poor friend was like dying at mile 18 because it was 70 degrees and sunny. So, like, it depends. I mean, knock on wood, you don't get that day. But I'm just saying it depends on, the weather on race day. But it could be something to be aware of. Like, understand that your sweat rate can change a little bit. You could be losing a little bit less sodium through your sweat if you're sweating less. Um, Again, like a sweat test can be helpful, especially if you do a long run, like let's say one of your 20-mile long runs is in similar conditions to what you think will be on race day. It could help you understand like how that can change for sure. But again, everyone's sweating is different. Like if you're, it depends on your goals, right? Like if you're pushing it on race day and like you're really working hard and like it's not just a fun run, like it's you're racing for time. When you're pushing it like that, like you still could be sweating very similar to what you're doing on an easy run in the summertime. So I know it's not a very straightforward answer. Like there's lots of components to consider here, but just understand that depends on your goals. But your sweat rate and your the electrolytes that you lose could decrease a bit potentially, and you can make like little adjustments based on that.
So could the gels and the carbs that you figure out you need during training not necessarily be enough either during race day because you're pushing it harder than you were during training?
Potentially, yeah, if you're pushing it. But this is why, like, the 60 to 90 grams of carbs per hour is a really great starting place. And then you will kind of, like, I would say just see how that feels and see how well you can optimize. Like, I have some runners who hit, 90 grams of carbs. I had a woman who is doing a half Ironman and she needed 120 grams on the bike. Really hilly course, really pushing it. But if you have the opportunity to practice some marathon pacing, like if you have a marathon goal and this is the pace you need to sustain to hit that goal on race day, you could practice that a little bit during your training to see how does fueling feel? Like, do you feel like you could use more carb? And I would honestly practice that too because ripping open a gel on an easy effort run versus ripping open and taking a gel when you're pushing it and doing race pace could be very different. I know for me, it's very different. So, like, even in speed workouts, I will fuel my speed workout one because I want to hit my paces. And maybe it's not like a really giant long speed workout, but just the practice of like ripping stuff open, taking it in, and seeing how that feels and practicing that too. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
There are some questions in the chat if you want
Okay.
to look at that.
Oh, can you repeat the nutrition app? Okay, I'm going to type that in here. It's called Nutrition X. IX. So that's the nutrition app. And I like it because you know what? If everyone's used MyFitnessPal, there's so much diet culture in MyFitnessPal. Like if you log a day of your eating, and like I've done this where I've logged like a day of eating, but maybe I like missed dinner or something. Like I just didn't log dinner. I ate dinner, but I didn't log dinner. And I'm at like, I don't know, 1,200 calories or, whatever. The app is like, oh, good job. If you ate this amount of calories every day for the next 30 days, like you'll lose X pounds. And I'm like, okay, I'm a runner. Like that's not helpful. You know what I mean? So Nutritionix like doesn't really have that garbage that some apps have. Um, any general tips for vegans, vegetarian runners? Yes, that's awesome question. So I would say, the biggest thing here would be like your protein source, right? And then there are certain vitamins and minerals to be aware of as a vegan vegetarian runner, like B12, for example. Like if we're not eating, a lot of B12 rich products are like meat products. But if you're not eating meat, it's okay. We can find other ways. So for example, maybe we're incorporating nutritional yeast that's fortified with B12. So it's good to be aware of the micronutrients that um, vegan athletes can be prone to be low in. But again, like with everything, like get a variety, even with your proteins, like not just eating black beans or beans every single day and counting that as your protein at meals. Eat beans, eat some tofu, eat some chickpea pasta, eat some, get a good variety in because you're more likely to get all the different amino acids, especially the essential amino acids that we need to eat because our body can't make them. So making sure we're getting in all the essential amino acids we need to build muscle, to recover, and do all of the things. Someone asked about collagen and creatine. So you know what? I have been getting so many questions on collagen and creatine. If you go to, I'm going to share my blog because you can read about the research on both. Hold on a sec. So if you go to the dietitianrunner.com, in the top there's a blog tab. So just click on the blog tab, and I have a blog post about collagen, a blog post on creatine. So just scroll down until you see both. The dietitianrunner.com. Okay, that's right. And then you can send me an email if you have any questions after you read those blog posts. Okay, who's next? Does anyone else have any questions? If not, feel free to email me. My email is here. If you need like one-on-one help with nutrition, let me know. Again, you can email me. Oh, you're welcome. Jill says thanks. Okay, you're welcome. But yeah, you guys remember, like you're an athlete, you want to feel like an athlete, refer to these slides for sure. I know Mara will send them out, so go back, remember your runner's plate framework, remember your runner snack framework, and work on your running nutrition. So that way, again, like you're feeling well during your training, but you're getting to race day stress-free because you have a plan. You just have to execute it one more time.
I think there was one more question.
Oh,
Pierre had asked about easy carbs for gluten-free runners.
oops, sorry, I missed that one. Um, any general recommendations for easy carbs for gluten-free runners? Yes. What do you mean by easy? Do you mean like quick digesting? I'm assuming you mean that, like those simple refined carbs.
Just so far, I've only found
Oh,
um like oatmeal as like a quick something like I like instead of toast, like is there something else or waffles I know are good. Like are there any kind of like
yes.
those things?
Yep. So like with your grains, choose, your gluten-free. So like gluten-free toast. Have you found some like a product that you like? Because I know that's a challenge with gluten-free runners is finding like a bread product brand that tastes good.
It's been a little difficult. They're also a lot smaller, they tend to be.
Yes.
So,
And that's another thing. I don't mean to go off on a tangent, but that's another thing as a gluten-free runner is not like being aware of what's in your products because I've had clients have like cauliflower products and it's gluten-free and they think they're eating carbs and it's like no carb. So like that's just something to be aware of too. But I would say like fruit, dried fruit. Like sometimes what I'll do is like have a handful of dates, for pre-workout. That works well. Any type of like those Bobo bars, I'm pretty sure they're gluten-free, but just read the label. So like those work. Gluten-free waffles, like Vans has a good gluten-free waffle, I believe. Juice could work. Any sports drink could work. So does that help give you some
Yeah,
options?
perfect. Thank you.
Okay. And you're talking pre-workout, right? I didn't not hear that.
Sort of whenever, just like the smaller things. Not like a full like meal, like your runner
Yeah.
eat, but like, yeah, the smaller, easier things to do before or during, or yeah.
Yeah. And you can even carb load being gluten free too. So like rice can be helpful. I'm trying to think. I did like a whole post on this. If you send me an email, Claire, I can send you some good options for carb loading when you're gluten free. But make sure you send me an email because I'm not going to know how to get a hold of you. Cool. Well, hopefully you guys learned a lot today. Um, if there's no other questions, oh, someone said, Claire, someone said Honey Stinger Energy Waffles have a gluten-free option. Oh, you already read it. Sorry, just trying to help.
All right, I guess if there's no other questions, thank you everyone. Hopefully we get the recording up on the website by the end of the week, but if not, I'll be early next week.
Okay, thank you.